Grab your maps and let's embark on a journey through the world of real estate innovation. In this episode of Geographical Thinking, we'll explore with Sumaiya and Rachelle, GIS Analysts from Colliers Canada. Together, we'll uncover how GIS technology is revolutionizing the real estate industry from demographic analysis to future area projections. Welcome back to Geographical Thinking. I'm Michelle Brake, and I'll be your guide as we explore ideas, stories, and conversations through the lens of geography. Joining me today are Sumaiya Siddiqi and Rachelle Siwy from Colliers. Sumaiya, welcome in. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself? How'd you get here? What do you do?
Hey, Michelle. Yes, absolutely. Thank you for having us. So, like Michelle mentioned, my name is Sumaiya Siddiqi. I've been at Colliers for about 10 months now as a senior GIS analyst. I was previously at Esri Canada, so it's been really exciting bringing all of that knowledge and experience into the commercial real estate world. And I've been in the industry for about 8 years now.
Great. Sumaiya, thank you for joining us, and it's great to have you back alongside us here at Esri Canada. I know when you went to work for Colliers that you were such a great asset to join their team and take the knowledge that you've learned. It's nice to see you again. And as well, joining us today alongside Sumaiya is Rachelle Siwy from Colliers as well. Rachelle, thank you for joining. Tell us a bit about yourself. What do you do? How'd you get here?
Thanks, Michelle, for having me today. So my name is Rachelle Siwy. I've been at Colliers for 3.5 years. I started here in a data role and moved into our GIS team as it's been expanding. I've been in this role for 2 years. My background before that is in environmental sciences, so totally different background, but lots of the same skills. And I have about 5 years of experience working with GIS.
Oh, wow. And that's such, as you said, a different change of pace going from environment into real estate. But I can see how there might be some similarities going between the two. I know a big hot topic within the environmental world even recently has been like commercial spaces and how can we use them better and what can we be doing to retrofit, kind of bring in those environmental elements to make more commercial spaces viable for that kind of thing in the future. So it's great to see you. And to get us started, can you tell us a little bit about Colliers and the company's industry of focus?
Absolutely. So Colliers is a global commercial real estate and professional services company. We have a broad range of services from everything like property management, etc. But Sumaiya and I specifically work with our brokerage teams. So that's a group of people that's representing buyers, sellers, tenants, landlords, etc. of commercial properties. And commercial properties are things like office spaces, retail stores, industrial manufacturing facilities, and even things like campgrounds or malls.
Oh, wow. I didn't realize how many different types of real estate could potentially fall into commercial space when I think of campgrounds. That's one that never really fits in there, but that's a great call out. And I feel like we hear so much about residential real estate, and I know how GIS can play a part in that side when we're looking at, like, oh, if I'm going to go on to Viewpoint's website, look up what's happening around me, there's a lot of things you can do there. But when it comes to the commercial side of things, I'm a little less certain. How do your roles fit into the bigger picture?
I think that's a great question, Michelle. So, what Sumaiya and I do primarily is helping our clients define their location strategy. So, we're helping them answer questions like, if I move to this location, how's that going to impact my employees' commute times? If I open a manufacturing facility here, is there going to be people to work there? And so you can really see we're using a lot of demographic and GIS information to help with this key decision making. We also do a lot of storytelling. So, why is this building attractive? What kind of tenants can we target for this building? For example, maybe there's a lot of young families in a good retail space. Maybe that's suitable for childcare. So, we're helping tell the story of the area as well. And I think at Colliers, we have a really unique service offering for GIS in the industry. We're really lucky to be part of our research team here, which is a group of 20, and we're able to kind of leverage a lot of proprietary information for our clients across Canada.
Awesome. And I'm wondering, before joining Colliers, were either of you familiar with how GIS is used within the real estate industry, or even what surprised you most when you started?
Not at all for me. Sumaiya, how about you?
I knew that GIS was being used, in the commercial sector, and that was like an emerging area for GIS, specifically towards real estate, other than, a geographical thinking podcast episode. Um, Other than that, not really.
Okay, I appreciate the call out to past episodes. We have had another real estate episode previously, but it's always nice to expand the picture further. So, knowing that it was new to both of you, I'm wondering how has the incorporation of GIS enhanced people's understanding of the value that this kind of information can provide, or what kind of feedback have you gotten from your networks in the company about the value of GIS in their day to day work?
Yeah, so I think more so than just like the data or the analysis itself, and Rachelle brought this up earlier, it's really the stories that we're able to tell to our brokers and clients and help them understand the value that way. But as the GIS team, we're always making it clear that, hey, we are GIS. This is what we do. So it kind of goes hand in hand with the storytelling, the data, the analysis, and being able to deliver that knowledge to our brokers and clients. So, feedback wise, we'd say that GIS is the hot topic of the season. And honestly, as a team, we're having more conversations and discussions with brokers and other departments on what the possibilities are. And we love having, trying to understand what these brokers what they find special about the area or the building or the tenant or whatever it may be. And I just remember having conversations going like, I can build that, or I can show that, or we can do that. And that's just constantly an ongoing experience for both parties involved. So our brokers and our clients love it. They're always there's always a range. Some are like extremely mind blown, which we love seeing, and some of our clients have previous GIS knowledge, so they already have that understanding and that appreciation that we are using GIS.
Awesome. And I find it's always nice to come into a position of, you know what, I think I have the solution to what you're asking for, rather than, ooh, how would I go about building this? Having that nice forward, yes, we can do this is always
Mm-hmm.
a great thing to have. And I'm wondering, I know you mentioned demographic data can, and the demographics of an area can play a part in this. I'm wondering, how does demographic data exactly help in commercial real estate planning? And are we just looking at where people are, like with the information we get from a census, or is there more to it than that?
I think it's really dependent on one, what type of um, commercial property we're looking at. Is it industrial? Are we looking at office? Are we looking at retail? And then from there, we're able to understand what kind of demographics that we're going to be bringing in to take a look at the area. Now, usually when it's, a smaller area, yes, we can bring in that census information. And then once we start expanding to larger areas and we break down those larger areas, we really start to understand those trends and those patterns, and we start seeing stories of certain areas. And sometimes it's very surprising, and clients or the brokers love it, and sometimes it just validates what somebody was already thinking about the area itself. So again, it's bringing in this data, telling the story, and figuring out new information.
Awesome. And I know both of you have pointed this out, that the bringing in of GIS and the data, that it's telling the story of the area. I just want to point out that's such a great phrase and such a great way to look at it, that, well, I've done GIS. We all do GIS. We talk about storytelling and with maps and various things, but I've never thought about how what we're doing is providing another medium to tell the story of an area. I think that's really cool. So thank you
Mm-hmm.
for bringing that phrase into us today. On the other side of, we have data, but what we do with the data, predictive analysis and modeling is something that pops up across a lot of different industries. I'm wondering, does it play a part at all in your work within the commercial real estate world for planning of the potential of an area?
Yes, it plays a huge part. So many of our clients are not looking at making decisions on properties today. They're looking at making those decisions in 5 years, in 10 years. They're constructing properties in the future. And so they want to know, where's those kind of like up and coming locations? Where are people going to be? All of those kinds of things that are going to be emerging in the future are of great interest to them. They want to be where it's happening. So that's how we're kind of able to help them through demographics, like predictive demographics using environics or other sources, is to tell them where these up and coming areas are. In terms of modeling, we don't do as much, but it's something we're exploring for sure.
Okay. And it's really interesting when thinking about like the predictive analysis side where like, oh, if I'm thinking where am I going to buy a house, I'm looking short term of what is the next rental building being built or what's the next subdivision near me. It's a lot of short term planning. So it's interesting to hear how long term we have to think in the commercial space of, okay, well, we see subdivisions being built here. What's going to be the 5 years from that next year? It's really interesting of like, how does that all play a part in it? And I'm wondering, how do you balance between those simple mapping requests and even the more complex analysis tasks? And what challenges do you face in that process?
Yeah, so we have a system where we triage the work. We have some self service tools, and a big focus for us has been automating workflows. So that's made a really big impact. We have a great summer intern who's been an amazing addition to our team and has really helped with that. And so, since we're able to automate those repeatable workflows, Rachelle and I can focus more so on those complex analysis and those tasks and really have the conversations with our brokers to understand what more can we do to build a better product. So some challenges that we face, one can absolutely be the volume of work that we get. I think we absolutely have shown our value within the organization, and people see that value. People want to understand the stories, and a lot of people want to tell their own stories as well through GIS and seeing how GIS can tell that story. So because of all of that, we definitely have a lot of volume. So that's something that we have to balance from time to time, and there's definitely high seasons and low seasons. And then also, one of our challenges is just the corporate understanding of how the triaging works. And this is only because we're still in, I would say, the beginning phases of kind of getting all of these new analyses that we have, and also the simple mapping requests that we get as well in terms of how they can be done. So I think as we grow as a team and as the understanding of what the GIS team specifically does grows as well, that's going to be alleviated naturally.
Okay. And it does sound like a large volume of work supporting an organization across a country. So knowing that there's some self-service tools that play into this, can you talk more about those and how have they helped enable users to do their work more efficiently and even make GIS more accessible?
Yeah, so we do have self-service tools. So we have quite a few. Um, but mainly what we're trying to do is put the power in the people across the organization's hand to self-serve or self-create. Um, and that saves us so much time. That allows Sumaiya and I to do those complex requests. In terms of self-service tools, we have two tools that we manage within between me and Sumaiya. And though the creation of those is really driven by the volume of their repeatable requests. So we do have two tools that we manage. We also work really closely with our US GIS team. So they have two tools that we're also able to leverage on a really large scale across Canada.
Nice. And it's nice to hear that there's partnership beyond just the Colliers Canada, going to Colliers around the world as well. And hearing the evolution of how there's the different self-service options, I think I'm sure really does help with some of that volume of work as well. And I'm sure it helps give you more time to work on those more complex analysis or the one-off or maybe two-off or three-off type projects. I'm wondering if there's any areas in particular that you want to see GIS grow further within the company or commercial real estate as a whole.
Yeah, I think something we're definitely trying to develop is continuing to understand that Colliers global GIS network because we work really closely with the US team, but we know that there's professionals in GIS in the United Kingdom, in France, in Amsterdam, and we want to communicate more with them. So that's something we're working towards. Like I said, more modeling. I was at the Esri conference recently, virtually attended, and I got to see some of the vector AI modeling done. And I think there's some really cool opportunities there for our business. And then also growing and expanding our team. That's something we're really excited about. And we really want to grow the capabilities of this team, continue to automate those things that can make our lives faster so we can continue working with those high value clients on complex requests.
And then as we keep growing our team, just continuing to build more relationships with other people in the organization so they understand the value of GIS. So commercial real estate is an industry built on trust. So if we can build those connections, if we can build that trust with other brokers or other departments, we would love to continue to do that. And then also just within the larger commercial real estate industry, continuing to have more conversations about how other organizations are using GIS within commercial real estate. I think that's something we would definitely love to explore.
Mm-hmm. And it's interesting to hear about the continuing to grow GIS internally, because I find working with different organizations that GIS users are the biggest promoters of our tools, and trying to widen that network and grow that adoption is always helpful. That once somebody has a chance to see, like, oh, what can this tool do? It really unlocks wanting to tell other people. If you find a nice restaurant that you like, or if you find a cool song, you want to share it with people. Same thing for cool GIS tools, and it sounds like you have some cool GIS tools working behind the scenes people want to share. And looking to the future and future developments in GIS technology, is there anything that you're excited about for the real estate industry, like AR or VR, deep learning, mobile solutions, AI even? I know we've touched on it a bit, but what are some of the up and coming things that you want to see?
I think mobile solutions are of interest to me and Sumaiya because our brokers are always on the road, the people that we work with.
Mm.
So they're driving from client A to B to tours to what have you. So how can we get that information for them on the fly with speed? That's something we always want to do. I talked about the vector AI component. And then another technology that I thought was really interesting is actually phone scanning to get the interior footprint for office buildings. So I saw that at a conference as well recently, and I thought that was so cool, and something maybe that a technology that our brokers could leverage.
Awesome. Yeah. And there's so much that can be done with just a phone or a tablet now, that it's always interesting to see where is that going. And I think like that internal scanning is one of those big steps forward for like internal GIS as well. So I'm also excited to see where we go with it and how can we connect in more things to get us further along. And I guess now that we've thought about the future, but looking back on what you know now about real estate and GIS in the world, do you have any advice for people looking to get into the GIS real estate world?
I think that one of the key things that we see is that soft skills are just as important as the technical skills. So instead of maybe listing, the technology you know how to use on a resume or what have you, list how you use that technology to help people make business decisions. Really take it that one step further, and that's how I think people can really stand out in today's industry.
And the industry is still at a very young stage, and the usage of GIS is still pretty new. So be creative. Have those conversations, like Rachelle mentioned, have those soft skills to be able to approach people within the industry, ask what their problems are, what their challenges are, and how GIS can solve them. Also, storytelling. I know we've mentioned this a bunch throughout the podcast, but storytelling is so important because our analysis and our data can get really complex. So, if you're able to take the complexity of what you're able to show and translate that into something that's understandable to different audiences, then that has huge value. So, that's definitely something that you should think about, you should work on, and you should definitely try out.
Awesome. I think that's some really great advice to move forward on. I agree that I feel we focus a lot on like those hard hitting technical skills, and sometimes we forget that we're people interacting with other people. We need to know how to do that sometimes. Step away from the computer.
Just
Uh,
sometimes.
it's just sometimes, once in a while, So I think it's really great to reinforce those points. And I think that's a great point for us to leave on for people to think about. And where do they go next? So thank you, Sumaiya and Rachelle, for joining us today. It's been really great to hear about those insights into the world of commercial real estate. Hopefully you had a good time joining us.
Lovely time.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Great. And thank you so much. And with that, that wraps up our journey through the innovative world of GIS in real estate. Huge thank you to Sumaiya and Rachelle for sharing their insights and experiences with us today. If you're looking for more information about the technical side of GIS, check out the Spatial Report podcast, where Mark and Maggie dive into the latest and greatest in the world of GIS. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep thinking geographically.